So for today we're going to learn manuals on a fire road. Obviously one of the best places you can learn manuals or practice manuals is in a parking lot with spaces. Anything that has notches just makes it easier to track your progress. I'm going to get warmed up with my suspension fully open with the rebound set high. That'll help me a bit and kind of replicate normal riding. You can increase your compression on your suspension to help you out, but if you don't ride like that on the trail, then it's going to give you a misrepresentation of how you're going to actually manual on the trail. So might as well, you can start with that to help maybe, but you do want to learn how to do it with your suspension fully open like you'd normally be riding. Now that we warmed up a bit, let's try really slow compression to see what negative effects it has on my ability to pull back and find that same balance point I was just using. So as you can see, when the rebound's so slow, you try to throw it up in your balance point, and then the bike slowly extends up the shock and pulls you back over the front. So let's move on to technique and go beyond settings. So we're going to keep our arms straight out and strong. We're going to try to keep our knees as bent midway as possible, and you use your knees as a leveraging point. And not necessarily your knees, it's more so your hips. You drop your rear end over your rear end, your rear tire, and you keep that fore aft going for trying to maintain the manual once you do find the balance point. Important thing for the full suspension people is you do need to compress your suspension, especially when you leave it wide open as opposed to increasing that compression. You want to sit into your feet, sit down your weight into the suspension, compress, then lift up. And let's see where the balance point is on this bike. Alright, so we're being a little impatient with our attempts. Ground here is not very flat. I'm kind of choosing a bad spot to do it. Especially with full suspension, heavier bikes or whatever, just trying to do it over and over again can make it just worse every time. So let's take these real, instead of doing that like double attempt, let's just have a real hard pull and really get back in the balance point and try to just do one good one. And let's start a bit earlier before that little dip and rise in the fire road. Quick side note on manuals, one of the things that can help you as you're starting is practicing it on slight uphills, and then as you get better, one of the things that can help you is slight downhills, because they retain the speed much easier. And then kind of like how bikes are more stable when they go fast, manualing can be a lot easier to just sit in that balance point without really twitchy movements when you're just going at speed, especially slightly downhill. I actually like to use uphills to practice wheelies. Fun fact, I don't know how to wheelie that well because my skills come from BMX, where it's a small bike, we don't have brakes, and our seats were like 2 feet off the ground back then. So let's practice some manuals going off into an uphill section. Chances are, if you review those two clips, you're going to notice two things between my first attempts and these recent ones. Probably going to notice a harder pull on the initial attempt, and I'm going to be very choosy about like when I start it, how I'm set, when I'm ready. I'm going to be really focused, hard pull, and then after that you're probably going to notice me sitting a bit further back, a bit lower. All of that is going to be pretty tiring, but the important thing you got to know is that once you really get in the middle of the manual, it's not as tiring because you're not fighting that constant dip of the front end. If you really sit into it and find the balance point, it's a very weird eureka moment where suddenly it's not hard. You're not pulling, you're not trying, you're not shifting so much. And once you find that for a bit, it's hard to really find it at first and sit in it. Hopefully it just clicks for you. But once you find it, you'll get an idea, and it'll be, when you make those attempts, it'll be less tiring, because one of the worst things you could do with the manual is just get tired and frustrated and do the same thing all day, just going pop, 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 pop. You can warm up like that, of course. It's good to warm up like that and just get a feel, get your arms going, because it is still going to be tiring, of course. But you don't want to do that all day. Do that for 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes, really 10 minutes. But after that, you want to be doing basically an attempt every minute or two. Take a break, reset, make sure you're getting a full pull and a full attempt to find that balance point each time. And once you do find that balance point, you can actually take that time to process what you did. Filming yourself is going to be very important. It's not fun to do. Scroll through each long clip and try to find where you went past the camera for 2-3 seconds, but it will be important for learning this. And one of the important aspects of learning these things is committing to play on your bike. Always playing on your bike. And I see a lot of people who ride and all they think about is crushing laps, going faster, looking at Strava times. And as they're doing this, I really notice they aren't becoming a better rider. They're getting slightly faster. They might be having some crashes while they're doing this because they're not improving their skill. I find it very strange, and I think people don't realize that slowing down and practicing skills is going to make you a faster rider. It's going to make you a better rider. Way more than just hitting laps over and over and over again and getting real tired can. Riding while you're tired, obviously it's naturally going to happen, but not so much progress happens when you're tired. Usually happens more so when you're fresh and you're really lucid and cognizant of what you're doing. So for the next how-to tutorial, I want to kind of go over how to play on your bike and how to read the trail. I don't think a lot of people, that they either don't read the trail or they read the trail for speed. People aren't reading the trail for fun and skills as much, and that's what's going to make you a way better rider.